This is The Cut. American whiskey, daily. Bottled in bond, just left bourbon behind. A Colorado single malt distillery released an 11-year whiskey under the same 1897 federal law that built bourbon's reputation. Same rules, different grain. And it's shipping to new states this month. I'm John from Chasing the Unicorn podcast. Here's what moved today. August 4th, 2026. Here's the big move. On Colorado Day, August 1st, Stranahan's put out its first ever bottled in bond whiskey, an 11-year-old American single malt distilled entirely within one 2015 production season. Stranahan's is a single malt house, not a bourbon producer, and bottled in bond has always read as bourbon shorthand. This breaks that. The federal rules don't care what grain you use. One distillery, one distilling season, 4 years minimum aged in a bonded warehouse, bottled at exactly 100 proof. Stranahan's cleared the age floor by more than double. Buyers at the Denver distillery on release day were guaranteed up to 3 bottles at $159.99, and it's now expanding into California, Texas, and Florida, with nationwide shipping where the law allows. Here's the catch. Because it's from one specific season, Stranahan's can't just make more when this batch runs out. Whatever 2015 vintage stock exists is the whole supply. That's the trade, a century-old transparency law, applied honestly at the cost of ever repeating this exact bottle. And it tells you something bigger. This credential is migrating across whiskey styles. It's not staying in bourbon's lane anymore. Now, today's label room. It isn't just Stranahan's making that move. In the same 48 hours, a Tennessee whiskey brand did the same thing from a completely different angle. Bib Tucker just cleared its first ever bottled in bond release, an 8-year Tennessee Hye Rye, distilled at Tennessee Distilling Group in Columbia, Tennessee, back in the spring of 2018. 8 years is double the legal 4-year minimum, and it bottles at the mandated 100 proof. Price is $64.99. National rollout hits in September, time to National Bourbon Month. Here's why this one's worth a second look. Tennessee whiskey has its own built-in credential already. The Lincoln County process, the charcoal mellowing that legally separates it from bourbon. Bib Tucker still runs that step, but instead of leaning only on that house process branding, the way most Tennessee whiskey does, they went and filed for bottled in bond on top of it. 2 credentials, stacked, when one would have been enough to put on the label. And the whiskey's already been tested blind. It picked up a gold medal and a 92-point score at the San Francisco World Spirits Competition before it ever hit a shelf. My take, when a brand with its own well-known regional process still reaches for the older, harder federal standard, that's not decoration. That's a company deciding the 1897 rule still means something to a buyer standing in a store, even next to a process credential the buyer already trusts. 2 producers, 2 categories, 1 law, 1 week. That's not a coincidence. That's a signal the whole industry is starting to lean on it again. So here's what it is. Back in 1897, whiskey fraud was a real problem. Some producers cut real whiskey with industrial alcohol and colored it with prune extract to fake age and character. Colonel Edmund Haynes Taylor Jr. pushed Congress to pass the Bottled in Bond Act, the first consumer protection law in American history. The deal was simple. 1 distillery, 1 season, 4 years aged in a federally bonded warehouse, bottled at exactly 100 proof. No marketing spin, just a government guarantee of where it came from, how old it is, and how strong it is. Most people hear bottled in bond and think bourbon, full stop. But the law was never written that way. It doesn't check your mash bill, it checks your paperwork. That's why a Colorado single malt and a Tennessee Hye Rye can both wear the same label, honestly, in the same week. What this changes, next time you see bottled in bond on a bottle that isn't bourbon, that's not a producer borrowing bourbon's reputation. That's a producer choosing the slower, stricter path on purpose. If you want to start tracking which ones actually earn it, log the pour in the Perfect Pour app's logbook. It's available now at theperfectpourapp.com. Also in this window, one to grab this week. Garrison Brothers just opened its first ever pre-sale for Hye Rye bourbon whiskey, and the window closes in 6 days on August 10th. Here's the deal. You pay $99.99 now, and you pick the bottle up in person in Hye, Texas, in October of 2028. No shipping, ever, and all sales are final. That's not a casual buy. That's locking in today's price against more than 2 years of aging and whatever the market does between now and then. The mash bill leans rye forward, 52% South Texas corn, 37% organic rye, 11% barley, bottled at 98 proof, so expect more spice than Garrison Brothers standard bourbon. And this isn't a blind bet. The recipe already has a track record. It first debuted back in 2020. If you're the kind of buyer who's fine committing money today for a bottle you won't hold for 2 years, this is worth the trip to the hill country. One more thing. Here's the one thing to take with you. A federal law from 1897 doesn't ask what's in your mash bill. It asks what's in your barrel and how long it sat there. When two producers from two different states, two different grains, both choose that harder standard in the same week, that's not nostalgia. That's the industry telling you which credentials still mean something when everything else on the shelf is just a label. That's The Cut. The full American whiskey industry brief is free every morning at chasingtheunicornpodcast.com. I'm John Schuster. Thanks for joining me. Your unicorn is out there.